Hey guys, Dalek44 here. I need no introduction. Guess what? It's Christmas! Did I mention that I love Christmas? I do. I really, really love Christmas. And since it's December again this year, I thought of what I can do this year. And then it hit me. Well, people really seemed to like Thomascember last year, so I thought I'd bring it back this year. And you may remember I said that I'm not going to review Series 8 onwards, and I'm still sticking to that rule. But that doesn't mean I don't have to not review the specials. Yes, we all know that the feature-length specials have been an improvement throughout the series since 2004. Well, except for some piece of shit that I know. So yeah, why am I reviewing the specials rather than Series 8 onwards? Well, it's because the specials have actually been better than the episodes, except for one piece of shit that I know. So I thought this year I'd review the feature-length specials just to get my opinions out. And just remember that this is all opinion-based, okay? Except I did a series of this last year, which automatically makes my opinion better than yours. Nah. So with that said, sit back and enjoy Thomascember Series 2. You want to know what I think of Corn Origins? It sucks. There you go, the end. No, I wouldn't do that to you guys. But seriously, I was not looking forward to watching this special again after all these years. You want to know why? Well, I'll explain the story real quick before we go into any details. It's summer on Sodor, and the Fat Controller informs his engines that they're aiding the construction of a new airport. Yeah, it's just the boats weren't getting enough people on the island. So while Thomas and Percy are shunting trucks, they're being bothered by the smelter diesels, Ari and Bert. So Thomas ends up playing tricks on them to delay them from doing their building work. But it turns out that Timothy's sheds was destroyed and the diesels were supposed to build a new one. But because they were delayed by Thomas's tricks of giving them bananas, they couldn't finish it. So the steam engines are forced to find new places to sleep. But at that time a storm comes around the island and strong winds cause the suspension bridge that was never seen in the past few series to collapse. And the next day the Fat Controller sends his engines on tasks to aid the recovery of the island. And the steam engines and the diesel engines refuse to cooperate with each other for obvious reasons. And when Thomas helps to rebuild the suspension bridge, the diesels start fighting with the other engines, which causes, dare I say it,
confusion and delay.
Thank you, Topham. And that night the engines all have nightmares about what will happen if no visitors come to the island. But then Thomas has a dream in the mountains where he meets Lady and Rusty, who say that all engines should work together. So the next morning Thomas teams up with Mavis to make all the engines cooperate and finish the jobs together. And it's all a race against time to get the airport finished before the first plane comes to the island. Okay, so we've heard the story of the special, but what are my problems with it? Well, it's kind of obvious, isn't it? Diesel 10 as a freaking good guy. Why the hell would they do that? That's completely out of character for him. When we saw him in Thomas and the Magic Railroad, he was the most evil diesel to come to Sodor and would do anything to destroy all steam engines. And what do they give us in this special?
Diesel 10 was grumpy. Like all engines, he still wanted to be useful.
Bullshit! This is completely out of character for this character. Made it funny. Yeah, but what really pisses me off is that it took two freaking writers to fuck up Diesel 10's personality. Wow, as if one writer wasn't enough to fuck up a character's personality, it actually hired two fucking writers to do it. I mean, it just pisses me off to see Diesel 10 like this, because he was one of the most evil characters on Sodor to me. And it's just completely out of character to see him being all nice and happy-go-lucky. And it's... And the other problem I have with this special that I didn't have in the past was the lesson. Well, I actually really do like the lesson that this special is trying to give out. If you work together and put your differences aside, then you can get a job done faster. But the only problem I have with this is that the engines never remember it for future reference, which makes the lesson pointless. So why do you even bother making a message for a kids film if the characters are going to forget the lesson anyway? It's really pointless. So why the fuck bother? Yeah, the lesson was pointless and Diesel 10 was a good guy. But I did find very few good points about this special. Like having some of the original characters make a cameo again. Like I thought it was really cool to see Rusty's original Series 4 model with Lady. That was a pretty good callback to the original series. And we did get to see some of the other characters from the old series, like Rusty, Lady, Daisy, and Mavis come back. Even Derek from Series 5 made a brief cameo in a music video. And these cameos gave us the hope that Hit would keep the characters around and allow them to come back to the series. Yeah, right. I mean, it would take a new head writer who actually read the original books to do that. And admittedly, I do kind of like the songs that they have in this special. Like Busy is a pretty catchy tune, and Try to Do Things Better is pretty catchy as well. And it did give us that cameo from Derek after all these years. And admittedly, Together We Made It Happen is my favourite song from this special. Even though it talks about the message which was entirely pointless to put in this special, it's still a pretty catchy tune. And we all know that the Engine Roll Call was a pretty crappy song, and they made a new version of it that would stick to this special. And just listen to this lyric.
And no one can remember when Steamy's worked with Diesel 10.
No shit, Sherlock. So yeah, if you want a Thomas the Tank Engine special that you can make fun of and poke at every nitpick you have and what's wrong with it, then I definitely watch this one to get your criticism and anger out. But if you want a good Thomas special to introduce to your kids for generations to come, then this is not the one I would recommend. I definitely skip it. But don't worry, we have more specials to come and hopefully they'll be better than this one. I have to admit, when I first heard about the Great Discovery, I remember thinking, seriously, they're making another feature-length special on Thomas? Come on! It was mostly because of the bomb that came before us that I didn't think this special was going to work. Even when I heard that Pierce Brosnan was going to narrate it, I was thinking, seriously? They got James Bond to narrate this special? And even with the exclusive cinema screenings that this film was having, that still didn't change anything for me. I still thought it was going to suck. But thankfully, I was 100% wrong. I mean, this special was better than I thought it was going to be. So what's the story? Sodor Day is coming to the island, and the engines are preparing for the celebration, and Thomas and James are racing to the wharf to be given a special job by the Thing Controller, aka Mr. Percival. Thomas ends up winning the race, and is sent to the hills to collect lumber with Duncan. As a way of getting back at Thomas for teasing him, Duncan decides to send him off to a rickety old bridge, and after avoiding falling to the same fate that Diesel 10 had in the Magic Railroad, Thomas discovers an old town that has been abandoned for years. And when the Fat Controller finds out, he tells Thomas that the town was Great Waterton, which was Sodor's largest town when steam engines first arrived on the island. So the Fat Controller decides to restore the town, thinking it would be the perfect place to celebrate Sodor Day. And Thomas is told to take charge of the engines working on the lines around the town. Meanwhile, a shiny new tank engine called Stanley is brought to the railway to perform Thomas's regular jobs. All the engines take to Stanley really well, who does a great job with everything he does. When Thomas sees Stanley doing his jobs, he becomes really jealous. Wait, where have I heard that before? Thomas gets furious when Stanley takes his place at Tidmouth Sheds, and the final straw comes when Thomas causes a major derailment and Stanley takes his place as leader of the Great Waterton operation. After Thomas is mended, he shunts trucks of stone for Stanley to take away. He decides to make Stanley look foolish by shunting a tremendous amount of trucks, hoping that Stanley would not be able to climb the hill out of the town. However, his plan backfires as the coupling on the trucks break, causing the trucks to roll down the hill, veer into a side and then crash into a newly finished tower which then collapses. The Fat Controller scolds Thomas for giving Stanley too much trucks to pull, and the engines are angry with him when they realise Thomas set up Stanley on purpose. I swear I've heard that before too. However, Stanley feels terrible when he realises that Thomas misses his friends all because of him and wants to set things right. Thomas feels miserable, thinking that he's no longer wanted by the other engines. I'm pretty sure I've seen this somewhere before. At night, the engines are asleep at Timber's sheds except for Thomas, who decides to clear the trucks of rubble out of the way of Great Waterton to make the engines like him again. When Thomas nearly finishes his job, he accidentally bumps a truck into an old mine. Racing after it, he races onto a shaft, and Thomas enjoys the ride, but then crashes through some boards into a wooden platform and floats down an underground waterway. When the engines realise that Thomas is missing, the Fat Controller organises a search party to go out and look for him, and the rest of the film is the other engines trying to find Thomas in time before the big day arrives. So, you remember me saying that I thought this special was going to be a bomb, but after watching it, it was really great. Pierce Brosnan does a great job narrating. I mean, Pierce Brosnan's narration reminds me of how Ringo Starr used to do it. Never changing his voice for an individual character and doing it in his same tone. It just seems very Ringo Starr-ish to me. Ringo Starr-ish. That's a new word. Even a number of the songs they write specifically for this special are pretty good. Like Racing to the Wharf is one of my favourites, and Thomas You're the Leader is a great song. In fact, watching the music video they have at the end of the special, it seems like a great tribute to the models before we go into CGI. And a number of the old characters like Bill and Ben, Diesel 10, really? They have to give Diesel 10 a cameo in this? Molly and even Rosie make cameos in this special. We even get to see the narrow gauge engines and Jack in the Pack again. So overall this was a really great special, certainly compared to that other special. In fact, the first time I watched this special, it reminded me of Toy Story. Well, mostly the little feud between Thomas and Stanley. It really did remind me of the feud between Woody and Buzz Lightyear in the first Toy Story film. Honestly guys, it sounds like that Sharon Miller actually watched the first Toy Story film to get an idea of how to write this special. Man, who'd have guessed that she actually watches Pixar movies? So overall, The Great Discovery is a great special. I say that this special was worth the watch for fans old and new. And if you thought this special was great, wait till you see what's coming up next. Hero of the Rails was the third feature-length special to be based off of Thomas the Tank Engine, as well as the first Thomas feature-length special to be done with full CGI. And when I heard about it, I thought that it was going to be pretty bad, like considering it was going to be the first one to be done with CGI and not the models. But then after watching the first 10 minutes of the special, it actually had me glued to my seat for the rest of it. It was that good. I'll just build the story real quick before I tell you my opinion about it. Summer has once again come to Sodor. Except this year, Poshy Majackass here helps the Duke and Duchess of Botsford to construct their new summer house. And while helping the Duke and Duchess to construct their new summer house, he's being a complete pompous ass to all the engines as usual. Thomas challenges Spencer to a contest of strength one day, to take heavy cargo around the island. After Thomas's brakes fail after climbing a tall hill, he runs out of control through an overgrown abandoned line. And there he meets an old steam engine named Hero. He was abandoned years ago, and it was said that he used to be king of the railway, and he's worried that if the Fat Controller finds out about him, then he'll scrap him. So Thomas promises to keep his identity a secret. And the next day when Thomas goes to the steamworks to be repaired by Victor and Kevin, I don't really know how that actually works. I mean, I don't know how a steam engine and a crane can repair a steam engine. I mean, humans are supposed to do it, aren't they? Anyway, when Thomas goes to the steamworks to be repaired, he keeps his secret with Victor, who gives him permission to use parts. But the only downside is that Hero's hiding place is dangerously close to the Duke and Duchess's new summer house area. The following day, Thomas tells Percy about Hero and asks Percy to do his job while he helps Hero. Percy misplaces his own mail trucks and breaks down while doing Thomas's job, so Thomas sprints into the steamworks. When the Fat Controller finds out about this, he scolds Thomas by forcing him to do Percy's work. With nobody else to ask for help, Thomas tells the rest of the engines about Hero. They all work together to bring Hero new parts, distracting Spencer and keeping the operation secret from the Fat Controller while Thomas and Percy try to find the missing mail trucks. Hero makes friends with all the engines, but gradually grows homesick. On the day that the last necessary part for Hero is delivered, Spencer discovers Percy's mail trucks, only to be cornered by Thomas, James and Percy. The Fat Controller accuses Spencer of stealing the trucks and demands him to return them to Percy. Well, finally he gets his comeuppance. After the last few times he got his comeuppance. When Thomas and Hero wait for Percy with the last part, they hear Spencer's whistle and run. Spencer finds them and gives chase. But without the last part, Hero falls apart and is forced to stop. Spencer is suddenly distracted by Gordon whilst Thomas moves Hero to a new hiding place. The Duke and Duchess are seriously pissed off with Spencer for abandoning his own work, and Thomas asks to assist him. in order to keep his eye on Spencer and to gain the trust of the Fat Controller. When Thomas finally decides to tell the Fat Controller about Hero. So now he decides to tell the Fat Man about Hero? Don't you think it would have been a lot, I don't know, easier if he just told him in the first place, like when he first found him? Wouldn't it have been easier then? It would have saved all the trouble we've had in this special. Spencer tries to stop him, thinking that Hero belongs in the smelter's yard, which is what they call the new scrapyard. And the rest of the film is just the engines trying to restore Hero before Spencer forces him to go to the smelter's yard, where he thinks he belongs. So yeah, you heard me saying that I thought this wasn't going to work since it was the first film done in CGI, but after watching the first 10 minutes of Spencer's survival, I actually thought that it was enjoyable. I especially like how they introduced Hero, a Japanese engine. I also like how they got a Japanese actor to voice Hero. And by the way, did you know that that's Professor Nemo from Robot Boy doing Hero's voice?
Go away! No trespassing!
And this was also the first time since Thomas and the Magic Railroad that individual actors were brought in to voice the engines. I'm not a huge fan of all the voice actors for the UK version, but they do a pretty good job. I mean, Ben Small does a great job as Thomas. He does sound youthful like Thomas should be. And Michelangelo stayed on as narrator while Michael Brandon narrated it for the US. It was rumoured that Pierce Brosnan was meant to narrate this special along with The Great Discovery and Misty Island Rescue. But he didn't do it, so they just got Michelangelo and Michael Brandon to do it. I also really like Teresa Gallagher as Emily and Mavis. You may not know her, but she's done a lot of voice work for children's television shows. I can't really say what else she's been in besides the UK dub of the Mr. Men show. But you'd pretty much hear her voice in every single UK children's television show. Pretty much, yeah. She does a great job. I especially like how she does the Scottish accent for Emily, which is how she's supposed to sound. And the new characters are pretty interesting. Hero's got an interesting backstory. In fact, Hero's backstory kind of reminds me of Oliver's backstory. Like an engine who's trying to escape from scrap. It's just very similar to Oliver. Victor and Kevin are pretty okay characters, but Kevin can get a little bit annoying at times. And I've seen both the US version and the UK version of this film. And you may remember that Miss Oliver Blossom said that Kevin is like Sodal's own Jerry Lewis. And watching the American version of it, I can see his point. He does sound a little bit like Jerry Lewis. In fact, he sounds so much like Jerry Lewis in the US version that they should have gotten Paul Rugg from Animaniacs to do his voice. You know, the guy who voiced Mr. Director in various Warner's cartoons. You know that guy, right?
Nice lady! A size 6 is too small for your fat foot. Don't with the hitting. I'll make it should fit. See, now that's funny.
And unlike the previous feature-length specials that had a number of songs, this special only had one song titled Go Go Thomas, which I'll admit is pretty catchy. And you may remember my Thomascember review of Series 7 where I said that I didn't like Spencer because he was a pompous asshole who I'd seen a million times before. Well, this special actually is right for him to be the villain. I mean, he makes a really good villain for this special. A pompous asshole is just what this special needed. So yeah, I don't really hate Spencer. I've just seen characters like him a bajillion times before. But this feature-length special actually did require him to be the villain. I mean, he made a pretty good villain for this special. Especially how he says one particular line in the US version.
No one speaks to me like that.
I can't think why. And I also like the opening titles they had for this film. I mean, it wasn't showing any of the CGI engines or anything, it was basic 2D animation. But it did look really good. So overall, Hero of the Rails is a worth watching special. Though I wouldn't really watch it 100 times over and over again, but it's still better than that other special. So if you want a great special for Thomas the Tank Engine, then I'd definitely recommend this one. It might not be something that you'd want to watch 100 times over and over again, but it's still a really good special and I'd recommend it. As soon as the news about Misty Island Rescue came out, every Thomas fan was going nuts for it. Some were saying it was going to be a bad special, others say it was going to be a good special. But do you want to know what I think of Misty Island Rescue? Let's take a look. The film opens with Sodor building a new search and rescue centre, for some reason, which will serve as the base operations for Harold, Rocky and the new lifeboat captain. Oh yeah, another new character that we've never seen before. Rare wood called Joby wood has arrived from Hero's homeland, which is obviously Japan, to be used in the completing of the centre. All the engines are excited about this and want to help deliver the wood to the search and rescue centre. But Diesel is determined to show how useful he is, so he decides to take the Joby wood to the search and rescue centre himself and races down the line with it. As soon as Thomas notices that Diesel is going too fast, he chases after him. Diesel soon ends up nearly falling into the same demise that Diesel 10 did in the movie, but unfortunately Thomas saves him, and loses the Joby wood as well. Not much of a great save. For his heroic rescue, Thomas is given the job of heading to the mainland to find more Joby wood. He is told that there's no room on the steamboat and must wait for the next boat, but Thomas notices a rat being dragged behind the boat and asks if he could be carried on the rat. Thomas says goodbye to the other engines at Brendan Docks and sets off across the sea to the mainland. But that night, the coupling of the raft breaks and Thomas is left floating all alone at sea. The next day, Thomas gets stranded on a mysterious island known as Misty Island. Thomas decides to explore this island, which is filled with rickety rails, secret hideouts, and old bridges. Upon exploring the mysterious island, Thomas discovers that the island has its own rail system and meets three strange engines named Bash, Dash and Ferdinand, known as the Login Locos. The Login Locos explain to Thomas that they were sent to the island after causing trouble on the mainland. Thomas also discovers that Joby wood trees grow on Misty Island. Talk about a coincidence. And that the island has logging equipment to load them for him. Seriously, if that's not a coincidence, I don't know what the hell is.
With the help of his new friends, Thomas tries to find his way back to Sodor and uncovers more of the island's mysteries, including a tunnel connecting Misty Island with Sodor. Meanwhile, out at sea, Howard and Captain are searching for Thomas. And the rest of the film is just really Thomas trying to find his way back to Sodor and the Fat Controller and the engines trying to find Thomas. So yeah, what are my opinions of this special compared to the other specials? When I started Thomascember Series 2 with that other special, I got a few comments saying that this is the worst of the specials compared to that other special.
But in my honest opinion, it's not a bad special. It's just not one of the best. But that's just my opinion.
And if I'm honest, when the opening titles came up for this movie, I literally felt like I was in Pirates of the Caribbean.
I mean, seriously guys, it just literally sounds like a Thomas the Tank Engine version of Pirates of the Caribbean. Just listen to that damn thing.
And in all honesty, I think the Login Locos, Bash, Dash and Ferdinand are kind of annoying. I mean, Bash and Dash have stupid voices in both the American version and the UK version.
We live here! We live here!
Shut up.
And all Ferdinand can say is,
That's right!
That's the possible t-shirt slogan.
so in all honesty, I don't think these three are the best characters in the show. But the good stuff that's in this special does make up for those three idiots. Like the chase with Thomas and Diesel. In fact, one YouTuber actually uploaded that chase scene with original music from the original show. And the music he chooses really does fit in with that scene. It makes me wonder why they didn't bring Michael Donnell and Junior Campbell back to do this scene, instead of just getting someone else to do the music from Series 8 onwards. So in my opinion, Misty Island Rescue isn't the worst special in the Thomas franchise, but it's not the best either. It's just good. Yeah, it's good. And plus this film was celebrating 65 years of Thomas the Tank Engine, so it's got to count for something. And for those of you who didn't like Misty Island Rescue, don't get your hopes up. We got another special coming up, and this special had a cliffhanger that leads to it. I won't give away any spoilers, just watch it and see. As soon as Day of the Diesels was announced, every Thomas fan was all hyped up for it. We had fan-made trailers, we had real trailers, we had a cliffhanger at the end of the last special that came before this. It was just a big thing for us Thomas fans. So what's the story? Thomas and his best friend Percy, as if we didn't already know that, fight a fire at a farmhouse until Belle arrives to save the day. After the fire is put out, Belle had run out of water and Thomas and Percy shunt her to the steamworks. Once there, Belle is congratulated by the Fat Controller for her brave work, but he says that another fire engine is needed on the island.
Well, obviously one fire engine wasn't enough for this island.
And what the hell happened to those fire engines from Series 5? Anyway, Belle recommends Flynn, another character we've never heard of, so it's arranged to bring him over from the mainland. When Thomas starts to spend all his time with Belle, Percy feels left out. Percy was supposed to deliver Flynn's hose to the rescue centre, but devious Diesel convinces him to go to the Sodor Diesel Works,
which had never been seen in the previous series.
At the Diesel Works in Vickerstown, Percy is made to feel very special by Diesel 10. Yeah, that's kind of a spoiler from Misty Island Rescue. Percy learns all about the state of the Diesel Works. The Diesels say that they told the Fat Controller that the Diesel Works needed repairing, but that he only listens to steam engines. That's a pile of bull crap. Percy says that he will ask Thomas to tell the Fat Controller because he always listens to Thomas. Really? Meanwhile, Flynn arrives at the docks and sets off to the steamworks. When Percy finds Thomas at the steamworks, everyone is admiring Flynn. Percy tries to tell Thomas about the Diesel Works, but Thomas interrupts by saying that the Fat Controller has asked him to show Flynn around the island and rolls over to the new fire engine. Percy, very sad, rolls away to Tismuth Sheds. The next day, Percy returns to the Diesel Works and learns that they don't have a working crane, except for a really old crane named Happy Hook. But Percy takes Sodor's Jerry Lewis here to the Diesel Works to work as their acting crane, and Diesel 10 is delighted that Jerry Lewis is their new crane. Diesel 10 keeps asking Percy to tell Thomas about the Diesel Works, but Percy always tells him that Thomas didn't have much time. So Diesel 10 tells Percy to bring Thomas to the Diesel Works so that they would have his full attention. And Percy agrees and stays the night at the Diesel Works. The next day, Percy arrives at Knapford only to learn that Thomas is looking for him. Thomas then asks where Percy was. Percy tells him, but before anyone could say anything, Gordon pulled up announcing Kevin's disappearance. Percy tells everyone that he is at the Diesel Works, and Thomas asks if Victor knows. Percy admits that he doesn't, and Thomas tells him that he must tell Victor right away. As soon as Victor hears the news, he goes to tell the Fat Controller about this news. Diesel 10 is happy to hear from Percy that Thomas will arrive soon and that Victor has left the steamworks. Diesel 10 tells Percy to lead them to the steamworks so they can take over it to make the Fat Controller listen to them. Thomas pulls in and Diesel 10 says that Den and Dart will take care of him. While Thomas is locked up in a shed, Percy leads the Diesels to the steamworks, and once there, Diesel 10 announces that they won't give it back, and Percy is horrified to find that Diesel 10 was just using him the whole time. It didn't take me long to figure it out. And the rest of the film is just the Diesels having control of the steamworks and Percy has to go back to save Thomas. And after that they have to force the Diesels out of the steamworks. So what do I think of this special?
Well, let me put it this way.
Diesel 10 is a freaking bad guy again. I've been waiting to see him be a bad guy again ever since Thomas and the Magic Railroad. I mean, it's just great to see him as the main villain again after all these years. And the first time I watched Day of the Diesels, I was thinking that this Steamworks takeover bit was pretty similar to Wind in the Willows. You know, with the whole weasels overrunning Toad Hall and then the Battle of Toad Hall and all that stuff.
So it sounds like Sharon Miller didn't just watch Toy Story, but she also read The Wind in the Willows to get inspiration for this special. Or maybe she watched the TV adaptations for it. I don't know, I guess it doesn't matter.
But either way, this is a pretty decent Thomas take on the Wind in the Willows story. Mostly the takeover bit. It's also nice to see Devious Diesel and Arian Burt on Diesel 10's side, since Splatter and Dodge are nowhere to be seen since Magic Railroad. And the new characters Den and Dart are really funny Diesels at times. I find it funny how Dart always finishes Den's sentence.
So they're real funny side characters, and what I mean is,
What he means is...
Oh wait, I've just remembered. But thanks for the reminder, Dart.
They're two funny characters. And Belle and Flynn are pretty interesting as well. But in all honesty, I'm not much of a fan of Flynn. I kind of prefer Belle. Maybe it was because she was voiced by Teresa. You know, the woman who does Emily and Rosie and pretty much every other female character in the show. And I don't know if it's just me, but the Day of the Diesel song kind of sounds similar to Go Go Thomas.
Yeah, seriously, if you like listen to that song, it just sounds similar to Go Go Thomas, but the lyrics changed. It just sounds very similar to me.
I don't know if it's just me, but listen to both of those songs to see what I'm talking about. So in my opinion, Day of the Diesels is a really good special. I actually thought it was one of the best specials, unlike that other special. So yeah, if you want to see a Thomas special that has Diesel 10 being a villain again since Thomas and the Magic Railroad, definitely watch this one. And if you're a fan of Wind in the Willows, then you're gonna love the Wind in the Willows take on this special. And if you think this special is great, wait till you see what's coming up next. When it was announced that Blue Mountain Mystery would be the last Thomas-related thing that Sharon Miller would write, every Thomas fan was pleased for it. Her reign of terror was over, everybody said. The show could probably go back to its original roots, they said.
Well, okay, only I said that, but I'm sure everybody else was thinking that.
So, what are my opinions of Sharon Miller's last ever Thomas the Tank Engine project? Well, I'll explain that in a minute. So what's the story? It's a busy day at the Blue Mountain Quarry, which was never seen in the past few series until this special. And Thomas is helping collect slate with the narrow gauge engines, minus Duncan and Duke. Yeah, it was at that time that Duncan mysteriously disappeared. And there wasn't exactly an explanation given for it. Anyway, Thomas spends the day working hard with his narrow gauge friends. When evening arrives, Thomas takes his trucks to Brendan Docks and returns to Timber Sheds for the night. The next morning, Thomas is shunting trucks in the quarry when a mysterious green engine darts from a tunnel. Thomas introduces himself, but the little green engine does not reply and quickly rattles into another tunnel. Thomas asks the narrow gauge engines who the green engine is, but they all tell him Porcupine. But eventually a little accident reveals that the engine's name is Luke. And when Thomas hears the conversation and asks them who Luke is, Scar Lowy decides to tell Thomas since they're friends. Scar Lowy tells Thomas that a long time ago Luke did something very bad and he thinks that if anyone finds him, he'll be sent away from Sodor forever. And because Thomas is Scar Lowy's friend, he promises to keep it a secret. So the next morning, the Blue Mountain Quarry is very busy. Rocky is moving stones from the bridge, and Thomas arrives to find Rhaenyra complaining to Scar Lowy about needing a new coat of paint after his accident. And Thomas tries to become friends with Luke, who is very shy about anyone else seeing him besides the narrow gauge engines. But as soon as Luke gets to know Thomas, the two become very good friends. But when Diesel and Paxton start poking their noses around, Luke starts to hide again, thinking that they'll tell the Fat Controller about him. And the rest of the film is just Thomas trying to find out what Luke did in the past that makes him think that he'll be sent away for good, and trying to keep Diesel from poking his nose in and telling the Fat Controller to send him away for good.
So yeah, what did I think of Sharon Miller's last ever Thomas script?
It was better than all her other scripts, minus Day of the Diesels. I mean, for her last feature-length special, as well as her last ever Thomas project, this was actually pretty decent. I mean, we got CGI flashbacks of the original series. Wow, who'd have guessed that Sharon Miller would actually do flashbacks from the original series in CGI? Though it was a good call for her since it was her last ever project. And it is nice to see all the narrow gauge engines again. And I really do like how they sound Welsh, which is understandable since they're based off of Welsh engines. And Luke is a pretty interesting character. He's got a very interesting backstory. And we even find out that Victor has an interesting backstory too. But I won't dare spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen this film yet. But I will say this. The actor David Beddoller, who voices Victor from Hero of the Rails onwards in the US, and Blue Mountain Mystery onwards in the UK, has damn good Spanish-speaking skills.
Hola! ¿A dónde vas? ¿Vas a Sodor?
So yeah, this is a really great special again.
But I do have a few minor nitpicks with this film. Like, where the hell are Duncan and Duke?
I mean, we know that Duke has disappeared after Series 5 and was never seen again. And we know that Duncan has recently disappeared in Series 16, but we never get an explanation for why. What the hell's Duncan? Why wasn't he in this special? Why? And the other nitpick I have is that when they do the flashback of the sad story of Henry, you can clearly tell that Henry's still in his new shape when he's supposed to be in his old shape.
I mean, you really couldn't have animated Henry in his old shape for this one minor flashback? Come on guys, at least let us know you're trying.
But like I said, this is just nitpicking, and it doesn't come close to ruining this special for what it is. And like the Great Discovery and Misty Island Rescue, this special required no villain. Well, unless you count Devious Diesel. But, yeah, come on, Devious Diesel is just being himself. So yeah, this special has no major villains except for Diesel, but it doesn't really need it. It's a story that doesn't require a major villain. So it's a really good special for Sharon Miller's last ever Thomas-related project.
So yeah, even though it's a great special, it doesn't really come close to making up for Sharon Miller's other bad script. And yeah, I'd be lying if I said it did.
So besides the little nitpicks, this is a really good special, unlike that other special. And if you think this special was good, wait till you see the last special I'm going to review. I guarantee you that it'll be 1,000 times better than this one. Here we go, the last part of Thomascember Series 2, Kin of the Railway, considered to be one of the best Thomas specials ever.
Now some of you may remember my overreacting to this special.
Amazing, marvelous, stupendous, colossal, tremendous, gigantic, astounding, unbelievable, spectacular, phenomenal! And it's good too!
So I'm going to review this one last special to see if I was right to react that way.
So, what's the story? The Earl of Sodor, who was never seen in the original show, returns to Sodor and chooses Thomas and his friends Percy and James to rebuild Olmsted Castle, which was never seen in the original show. During their latest adventure, the engines meet Millie, a bubbly French engine, and Stephen, an older steam locomotive with fascinating stories to tell. Meanwhile, Spencer and Gordon are stunned when they encounter two new engines, Connor and Caitlin, who are even faster than they are. But disaster strikes when Stephen goes missing. And the rest of the special is just the engines trying to get Olmsted Castle repaired in time for the grand opening and trying to find Stephen before the day arrives.
So what exactly is it about the special that caused me to react like this?
Amazing, marvelous, stupendous, colossal, tremendous, gigantic, astounding, unbelievable, spectacular, phenomenal! And it's good too!
Well, I'll tell you. It's the fact that Sharon Miller isn't writing anymore. I mean, seriously, Andrew Brenner has really outdone himself for his first ever Thomas feature-length special. He did a really, really great job of it.
And it's really great to see the engines being themselves again since... well... ever.
I mean, I don't think we've ever seen them being themselves since the end of Series 7. It's just really great for Andrew to go back to the show's original roots, railway logic rather than just friendship. And I really love Millie the French engine because she's really cute and adorable. And she has that adorable little giggle.
And by the way, did you know that was Tallulah with 3 L's and an H doing her voice?
What I also like about this character is that she's nothing like those French stereotypes we see on TV loads of times before. Like Pepe Le Pew, Fifi Le Fume, and even Antoine.
Remember that wimp? Of course you do, we all remember him.
Yeah, she doesn't think she's sexy, and she's not a coward. She's just really bubbly. And that's a really good personality for this character to have. And the actress who does her voice does a great French accent. I mean, it sounded so French that I couldn't even tell the difference. Then again, she does do a pretty good American accent too.
It's the depression, sweetie. Your heart might break, but the show goes on, because if it stops, you starve.
And Stephen is a very interesting character too. He has a very interesting backstory. And I really love how they used Stephenson's rocket design for this engine. It's just really great. I mean, who'd have guessed that we'd have seen Stephenson's rocket in Thomas the Tank Engine? And the other two characters, Caitlin and Connor, are kind of rushed. We get more of a glimpse into their personality in Series 17. And the Elsa Robert is a funny character at times. Well, it's mostly because of his personality, like how he's very energetic and excited about every plan he has. I almost see him as a sort of less conceited version of Toad from The Wind in the Willows. You know, like a posh gentleman who likes to try new things, you know, all that jazz. But never to a point where he becomes conceited and boastful. He's just a really nice guy who likes surprises and discovering new things. And once again, Rosie makes a cameo, but in my opinion, Rosie should have a big part in one of the Thomas specials. I mean, it would be really great for her to have a big part in a Thomas the Tank Engine feature-length special. But that's just nitpicking. And speaking of nitpicks, it's really nice to have the Troublesome Trucks talking again, but I really wish that they still had their monkey giggle from Series 2 to Series 7. I mean, it would just seem more nostalgic to us Thomas fans. And another nitpick I have is an animation error when Spencer first arrives on the island. Well, it's mostly with his nameplate missing out his name. But then again, it was the first time they used the new CGI, and I don't really hold it against them for that. Yeah, it was just the first time they used the new CGI. And that welcome they had at Knapford Station for Sir Robert was pretty nice. But did the brass band really have to do the engine roll call music?
I mean, it seriously would have been better off if they just did Michael Donner and Junior Campbell's original theme. It would seem more nostalgic for us fans who grew up with it, and a lot less ear-rapingly bad.
But this is all just nitpick, and I'm looking for things to complain about. This was a really great special, and those nitpicks don't come close to ruining how great this special is. And I don't know if it's just me, but the new narrator, Mark Morgahan, kind of sounds like a young Michelangelos. Well, it might just be me, but he does sound a little bit similar to Michael, in my opinion. But if you don't believe me, you might have to listen to the two back to back and see if you can see any similarities that I did. But either way, he was a great choice for the new narrator for Thomas. I mean, getting another Liverpudlian to do the narration. It's official that the Thomas crew likes a Liverpudlian to narrate the stories in the UK. Oh, and did I forget to mention, he also does the narration for the US versions as well. Wow, the US must have liked him too. And another thing I really love is how they brought up Henry's special coal thing. I mean, listen to this.
Henry's broken down. Don't tell me he needs special coal again. No, Gordon. That was fixed years ago.
As soon as I heard that line, I immediately had to pause the video and then get up to dance to Celebration. Seriously, it was that exciting to hear.
I was thinking like, they finally got rid of the special coal thing that Henry doesn't need anymore. It was great to see a writer who actually read the original books and watched the original TV series. It's just great to have him going back to the show's original roots. So overall, this is a great special. It's definitely better than all the other specials combined, because it took a franchise that was turning into nothing and turned it back into something, unlike that other fucking special!
That, along with Series 8, took the franchise and turned it into nothing! And I would make fun of how Andrew Brenner's writing is better than Sharon Miller's writing, but I feel it would be pointless, since everybody on YouTube does it already. So I'm not going to make fun of Sharon Miller's writing, because everybody does it. There's no point in me doing it.
So enough of me yapping. Long story short, King of the Valley is the best special ever. I would definitely recommend it to every single Thomas fan out there. Me personally, I wouldn't buy the DVD and watch it a million times over and over, but when I feel like watching it, I'll definitely be happy to watch it. And that's the end of Thomascember Series 2. Thank you so much for joining me in a look back at the Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends feature-length specials. I know you all have your own opinions about these specials, so I'd advise you to get them out there and see what everyone has to say. Do you think they're good specials, or do you think they're bad specials? But whatever your opinions are, get them out there and see what everyone has to say, and have a Merry Christmas.